Day 2 of practice here at Lake Pickwick for stop number 5 of the FLW Tour. And, you know, we come here, we're always interviewing the Mark Roses and the Randy Haynes and JT Kennys. But today we're going to bring you a couple of up-and-comers, some of the rising guys I see on tour. Jason Lambert here, I think, has reached that what I would call critical mass of getting ready to really break out. I was looking back at your record, a lot of top 10s over at Kentucky Lake. Just finished second over there at Kentucky Lake, and also won a couple BFLs over here at Pickwick. This is your home lake, is that correct, Jason?
Yeah, this is where I grew up. I've been fishing here my whole life. I mean, this ledge fishing thing is what we came up doing. Smallmouth fishing back in the day, and now since the largemouth kind of taken over, that's pretty much what we do.
This lake, in terms of this whole new school ledge fishing, I mean, you know, Haynes kind of broke that whole story. You were just telling me a minute ago you grew up fishing against Haynes. This is kind of where that, I mean, where I look back on it, this is kind of where the whole what I call new school ledge mania broke out. Looking at for these fish on your electronics, idling for hours, and it sounds like you've kind of been steeped in watching this whole thing unfold down here at Pickwick.
Well, when these electronics came out, you know, Pickwick, of course, it's a deeper lake than Kentucky Lake is, and there's a lot more stuff here that you can actually look at with your electronics. You know, I guess the falsity of the electronics is people think you can see them in a lot of different depths, but you really can't. You got to have the water depth in order to see them, and Pickwick sets up perfectly for that.
Okay.
It's grown to a big deal, not just for myself and Rose and Haynes, but I mean everybody's looking at them now, and you know, once, like we said earlier, once you build the confidence in those electronics, then there's really no need to make many casts in practice. You just actually go find the fish and then figure out how to catch them as the tournament goes on.
So what you're saying is Pickwick sets up perfectly for what those electronics are designed to do. It's the perfect laboratory to put those to work.
It is the perfect situation, and we're here at the perfect time to do it. It's like I said, it's a deeper reservoir. You know, the what we call the river bars or the humps or whatever somebody wants to refer to them as, or the channel drops. They're, you know, the tops of them here are typically a lot deeper than the tops of them are on Kentucky or say Gunnersville or even Chickamauga. So it allows for the opportunity to do a lot more structure scanning versus fishing in practice, and you can just cover so much more water doing it that way.
We're talking to everybody this go around here about kind of how they like to set their electronics up, especially I'm assuming you're running 2 units in your dash. Now, are you running two units up front? I mean, how many total units do you have in your boat?
I've only got 3 units.
Okay.
I've got a unit in the bow, and then of course I've got a flush mount HDS Lowrance in the console, and then I've got one on a round mount out to the side.
Okay. I'm starting to see some of these guys run 2 up front. A minute ago, you kind of laughed and said, okay, that's overkill. But, I mean, now seriously, because for years ago when Rose showed up with 2 on his console, I went, now that's overkill. Now guys have 4 and 5 and 6, few more on the floor. At what point do we get to overkill with electronics?
Well, I mean, the 2 at the dash is, and I'm not trying to give a sales pitch here for Lowrance, but if you're going to run the structure scan effectively and efficiently, you actually need 2 units. You need one that you can keep up with your maps on, and you need a full screen for your structure scan.
Okay.
That gives you a screen that's nothing there but the fish.
Okay.
Now, as far as the 2 up front, in my opinion, it's overkill.
Okay.
As we were talking about earlier, the best use for that is just in case something happens to one of them, okay, and then you've actually got a backup there to use.
Okay. And I know everybody likes to do it a little bit differently. Every guy, JT and Rhodes, has a little different technique. Some guys like the side scan more. Some kind of like the down scan more. Some guys still on the 2D sonar looking for them. You were showing me some pictures from Kentucky Lake last week. These are pictures from Kentucky Lake, not from Pickwick. But it looks like you like the side scan more.
I personally prefer the side scan. I run HDS 12. I actually run just a couple inches of down scan on the side on a split screen. Okay. The only reason I run the down scan is primarily to see the distance off the bottom to make sure they're positioned properly. But I can see more effectively personally with the side scan. Now everybody has a preference, but that's my preference.
Okay. So tell me about the crowds. The next thing that happens, I know what happens now. Y'all find these schools and what guys call mega schools, and then becomes the the merry-go-round, the politicking, when 5 or 6 guys. I saw it on Chickamauga with Casey Martin last year. I mean, that's the crazy part about this.
Well, it's, there's a lot of guys that are good at this. It's not just the Roses or the Hayneses or the JTs. There's a lot of guys that can read electronics. There's also a lot of guys that can use waypoint buttons. So a lake this small, I mean, yeah, it's 44,000 acres and it's 55 miles long, but when these fish come off shore, there's only so many places they can go. So it's going to fish really, really tight this week. I mean, it's there's probably 100 schools out here to fish, but 170 boats can't fish 100 schools.
Wow. All right, one last thing, Jason. I want to know, after reading the coverage from Kentucky Lake last week, have your hands healed up? I mean, second place, you were getting just brutalized. I saw some of those pictures. Are you going to be okay this week for lipping more dozens of bass per day?
Well, I don't think we're going to see the numbers here that we saw at Kentucky Lake last week, but with the use of electronics this week, I'm letting them heal because I'm actually looking and not fishing. But it's pretty crazy when you can catch over 100 fish in one day that are over 3 pounds. That lake's crazy.
Yeah, we're going to have to start wearing gloves pretty soon. That's it. Another electronics lesson this week from Jason Lambert here at Pickwick Lake.